So for today's prophecy update, I want to talk about the centrality of Jerusalem as God's prophetic clock, as it's often referred to. And this in the sense that it reveals the lateness of the hour and the nearness of the rapture. I would argue that all the major and well-known prophecies have at their core Jerusalem, specifically Jerusalem, which has been, is, and will always be the eternal capital of Israel. And I say that for this reason. The end game of prophecies like Ezekiel 38, which we talk about a lot as of late for good reason, and Isaiah 17, a prophecy concerning Damascus, Syria. The end game of prophecies like these is Jerusalem. And by the way, for those of you who have been part of our study on Thursday nights where we're going through the Bible and in the Old Testament, replete throughout the Old Testament, God declares that Jerusalem is the city where he has chosen to put his name, literally, by way of the Hebrew Sheen. It is a fascinating truth in the Word of God concerning the name of God and the ownership of God literally being on this one city on earth. And that city is Jerusalem. And that's why it's the end game for and of these prophecies like Ezekiel 38 and Isaiah 17. I think the most well-known prophecy concerning Jerusalem is in Zechariah 12. And I want to read verses 1 through 3 quickly. You're welcome to turn there. I would encourage you to do so. Verse 1, Zechariah 12, a prophecy, the word of the Lord concerning Israel. The Lord, who stretches out the heavens, who lays the foundation of the earth, and who forms the human spirit within a person, declares, I am going to make Jerusalem a cup that sends all the surrounding peoples reeling. Judah will be besieged as well as Jerusalem. And on that day, when all the nations of the earth are gathered against her, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock for all the nations. All who try to move it will injure themselves. Let me see if I can explain this very important prophecy concerning Jerusalem. What God is saying here is that God is going to make Jerusalem, himself, he's going to make Jerusalem the obsession of the entire world. It's going to be an intoxication. The whole world is going to become obsessed and even intoxicated with this one little, and it's little. For those of you who have been there, you know how little Jerusalem is. This one little city, Jerusalem, will become the obsession of the entire world. Well, what are they going to be so obsessed about? What are they going to be so intoxicated by concerning Jerusalem? They're going to be obsessed with dividing it, moving the boundary stones, which was how they marked the boundaries in that day. And God is saying, I'm going to, whoever tries to divide or cut up Jerusalem, I'm going to cut you. You want to try to divide? I will divide you. That's my city. You can't do that. Don't touch it. Don't even think about it. But you will think about it. You're going to be obsessed with it. And you're going to try to divide it. And if you try, you will do so at your own peril, because all who try to do so will be injured themselves. I will injure you. I will cut you. I will divide you. I will hurt you. That's Jerusalem. It belongs to me. My name of ownership is on it. Jerusalem belongs to me. And I've given it to my people. It doesn't belong to you. You say it is. It doesn't. You lay claims to it. They're illegitimate. And the whole world will come to the place where the whole world is today as we speak, where they're obsessed with and intoxicated by Jerusalem. Okay. You'll forgive the simplicity with which I say this, but whenever Jerusalem is in the news, which is often, pay attention. Because whenever Jerusalem is in the news, it means that Bible prophecy is beginning to come to pass. Here's how I'll use this illustration of a prophetic clock. So Israel is the minute hand on the prophetic clock, tell you how late it is and what time it is in terms of Bible prophecy. But Jerusalem is the second hand on that prophetic clock. That's how specific and how important Jerusalem is when it comes to Bible prophecy. Now, for those who have been following the news this last week, you know exactly where I'm going with this. You know about this upcoming 6-month waiver to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, which needs to be signed by the U.S. president. This was actually a U.S. law that was signed by then President Bill Clinton in 1995, which requires the U.S. Embassy be relocated from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That was 22 years ago. We actually have a law, and by law, we are required to relocate the U.S. Embassy where it currently is in Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So why haven't we moved the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? Oh, because written into that law was a waiver that could be signed by the U.S. president waiving this move and delaying this move, which is exactly what has been happening for 22 years. Every 6 months, in June and December, to the present day, starting with Clinton, to then Bush, to then Obama, and then in June, most recently, even Trump signed this waiver. And that's why the embassy remains in Tel Aviv and has not been moved, according to the law, to Jerusalem. Now here's the thing. This week, the 6-month deadline is coming up again. And President Trump will now need to make a decision again as to whether or not he's going to waive it again. However, this time around, the stakes are significantly higher, and this by virtue of what comes packaged with it, whether he waives it or not, and it's that of declaring Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. This has never happened before. It's important to know that the United States of America does not recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, Tel Aviv. That's why our embassy's there. And not just the United States, every nation in the world does not recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.